one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of the veterans who have served our country and the servicemen and women who continue to serve both here and abroad. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilor Anderson, Bucci, Christensen, Condon, Fallon, Kinnon, Lucy, Murphy, Nestor, Spadafora, DePietro.
Here. First order of business.
Under suspension of docket rules, ordered that the sum of $2,115,500 being the same is hereby transferred from the following: Public Facilities, $40,000, Police, $89,000, Fire, $74,500, Parks, $27,000, Highway, $70,000, Library, $67,000, Stadium, $28,000, non-contributory, $70,000, Schools, $1,650,000 to the General Stabilization Account.
Thank you. On Councilor Condon's motion to suspend docket rules, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. On Councilor Condon's motion to suspend financial rules, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The financial rules are suspended. On Councilor Condon's motion to discuss the transfers, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Council President. Because everything was so late, year end, and everything had to be passed by June 30th, these are typical year-end transfers. So at this time, I'd like to call up City Controller Don Famano so he could go over each one of these transfers individually. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, let me apologize for the time of this particular meeting. Tried to get it scheduled, and it was my suggestion to the Council President to get it later, but we have a Board of Appeal meeting that is this evening in this chamber. I didn't know how long this particular discussion would take, hence the earliness of this particular meeting. I know some people had a tough time getting here this evening, but that's the reason for that. As to this transfer, the Department of Revenue notified me approximately a week and a half ago that they have changed their policies on holdovers, what they would allow for holdovers, what they would not allow for holdovers. As we had this long discussion during our budget process, that holdovers mean a lot to various departments, especially the school department. What they talk about and what we have been doing for years is that any holdover must have an encumbrance figure attached, which means a purchase order must be assigned to that particular holdover, or a contract. That's what we normally do. However, along the course of doing the year-end and closing of the accounts, if I notice that there are departments that have a problem or will have a problem with the new budget, and they're sitting there with about $5,000 in their prior year budget, I will ask questions to find out if they need it, if the money they have in their budget is sufficient, run this by the mayor and the budget team would talk, and I would hold that over. In order for me to do that, in order for any community to do that as of this year, those funds have to be taken out of their budget for 2010 and transferred into a stabilization account as of June 30th, 2010. This all came to light when we were talking about that $1.7 million figure that the school department was going to use, that he had able to have as a surplus from 2010 and using that surplus to offset some of the shortfalls in 2011. That was well and done. The city council went through and did its deliberation. They notified me and indicated that the only way they're going to be allowed the school department to do that is if we transfer those funds out of the school department into the stabilization account. So that's what part of this particular transfer is for. The other transfers, as you look at from the police department, fire department, DPW, all the way up and down the line, those are departments that have had holdovers requests, which I've already given them, but there's also a little bit of surplus of money that's available. Took those funds and also transferred them into surplus. And the reasoning behind that, as you all know, that our budget for 2010 is extremely lean. We don't have the funds to do the transfers for shortfalls in overtime accounts, especially for police and fire department. We don't have funds set aside for overtime for DPW, for sand and salt and snow accounts and what have you. So these are the funds that I've identified that are gross surplus funds that are not attached to a purchase order, not requested as a transfer, not requested as a holdover. So rather than have it go into a surplus account that would filter into free cash, with not knowing if it would have a positive free cash, I chose to capture it. Obviously, I spoke to the mayor about it. Chose to set this aside for those particular purposes. So the reason for this, the other big reason for this, is that in order to accomplish this and to get it done, the DOR requires that this be done prior to no later than July 15th, today. This is the earliest that I could get this information together. As you all know, we're converting from a GL system to a new GL system as of July 1st. All of this data had to be converted over, and I'm not talking about balances. I'm talking about purchase orders and outstanding purchase orders. All that had to be converted over to see if they had some validity to what they're looking for. So it took a lot of work from my staff to get a lot of this information done, and all we handled so far is just the general fund, which is both the city and the school side budget. So again, if I just may put this all together, the purpose of this particular transfer is a year-end transfer. It has nothing to do with next year's budget. It's to do with this year's budget, 2010's budget, to carry those figures over that would be available to us in the case of emergency. Excuse me. We know that the school department already has earmarked its holdover for purposes to offset the shortfalls for 2011. The other figures, as I told you, is going to be used as a total to help us in other categories. So that's the reason for the meeting tonight. Again, I apologize for the earliness of the time of the meeting. I apologize for not, as I have done, to send information to you, but to be quite honest with you, working on this thing for the past 5 days, 24/7, trying to get it done, and I got prepared late this morning. So I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Do you have any questions? Please put your lights on for questions. Councilor Judy Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dom, just for me to understand, the monies that were held over for the school department's operation next year is on this, will be put over to the stabilization
Correct.
account. The other monies, the other departments above that particular 1.650, are those funds in a cumulative account, or are they going to be brought over to that stabilization account for those departments that are listed there?
All these departments, including the school department, these numbers will be transferred into a stabilization account.
Okay.
That will be only used for, thank you, that will only be, the only way you can get those funds out of there would be via a transfer that has to come before you folks.
Okay. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bucci. Councilor Deb Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think my question was pretty much the same. So these monies, which are being taken out of each of these departments' accounts to put into that one stabilization account,
Correct.
those monies will no longer be earmarked for those particular departments?
The only one truly that has a tag to it, because we know the purpose of it, and we know why that surplus was created, was for the school department. All the others, from the information I have been able to get from them, the only holdover they've requested are those that pertain to encumbrances and or contracts. So any other surplus that they have within their 2010 budget is not requested. Therefore, I took it to put into the stabilization account so we could use it for a shortfall or for an emergency purpose for 2011. As I stated earlier, if you don't take it, then they will just put it into surplus and it'll flow through in your free cash, but no guarantee you'll get free cash.
And it has no effect on the a budget that was just adopted by the
Totally
county?
different.
Okay.
It has no reflection to it, none whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fillon. Councilor Gary Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Compliments to Dom and your staff for really, working through this. I know we had talked a little bit previously of the times that we're in, so I do want to compliment you at the outset. Just a quick question. Were you surprised outside of the school department by any of these amounts? Maybe in other words, have some of these amounts accumulated because of attrition, or you really put the freeze on early on in the fiscal year? Were any of them surprising to you?
With the two large ones, obviously the police and fire department.
Sure.
Both chiefs, the two chiefs that we had in the police department and the fire chief, they were frugal all year long.
Okay.
Plus there was layoffs not layoffs, but slipping words. There were retirements that took place during the course of the year.
Okay.
That either didn't get backed up by another individual, or there was a time, a time period before they got filled again. So there was a lag of money. But they were frugal, and we kind of pressed the envelope that, the only way you're going to get a purchase order is if you need it, not if you want it. And I think they all understood. And by and large, all departments work the same way. But these were the two big ones that we had the ability to do that, as well as the DPW.
And just to confirm what the councilor from Ward 8 stated was that during the course of fiscal year 2011 now, any use of these would go through the mayor to us,
correct,
et cetera. Okay.
There'll be no direct expenditure to this account. Can't be.
Got it. Okay.
It has to be a transfer out of it to a department for a particular purpose.
Okay. Thank you. Understood. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Councilor Christensen. Councilor Greg Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Mr. Fermano, thank you for calling us here in the summertime to get this done before the state needs the numbers. So, like Councilor Christian said, I know you found out last week. I talked to you on the phone, so it took you a couple of days to get this done, and I appreciate that. My question is, you probably already answered, but outside of the 1.65, 650,000 rather, the difference is 465,500. You might have just said it in the last statement. I just want to confirm it. That money can be used for anything once it's in there. So overtime for the police department, overtime for the fire department, sand, salt, gravel. If the school department needed, say, an emergency and they had to fix something, the money doesn't have to, that 465.50 basically be used whatever we want to use it for. There's no restrictions, rather, right?
There aren't any restrictions on it, but I would tell you that the money itself, that in the exercise that we had to go through to create this particular amount of money, those funds would be used to plug the shortfalls we have. And where our shortfalls show up, it's in overtime.
Yep.
When you have your snowstorms, you have overtime on that. You have your sand and salt accounts that you have that we always don't come up with a large enough figure, and most communities are like that. So it's where you have your problems, that's where these funds will be allocated. It won't be allocated to pay someone to pay raise, I'll tell you that. It won't be allocated to create a new job.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Fano. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Councilor Spatafora. Any other questions of Controller Fermano? Councilor Condon?
No, I'd just like to thank you, Dom, and also Chuck Ranigan for your hard work to get these numbers together and to us tonight. At this time, if there's no further questions, I would move that we adopt these transfers.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. On Councilor Condon's motion to adopt, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilor Bucci?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Fallon?
Yes.
Lucy? Spatafora?
Yes.
DePietro?
Yes. Transfers are approved.
At this time, I would move reconsideration, hoping this same does not prevail.
A yes vote would be. Excuse me.
He's looking for a no.
A no vote would be not to reconsider the question of the transfers. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilor Bucci? Christensen?
No.
Condon?
No.
Fallon?
No.
Lucy? Spatafora? DePietro?
No.
So reconsideration is denied.
The reconsideration is sustained. The transfers are approved. Any other personal privilege by anybody? Yeah, we do have one. Very good. Councilor Judy Bucci for personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, and only because we're on cable. And I want to just applaud and thank Councilor Murphy. She's not here tonight. She's tied up on other business, but the public is weighing in hopefully tonight, and if not, they may catch this at another time frame, and hopefully we'll stay tuned to MATV. Last night was the first cruise night. And even though the weather was poor, I definitely want to send out a wonderful sense of appreciation. She had great vision to utilize downtown last night, and with a core team of different people and different committees, she orchestrated a wonderful evening where families and their children came down, enjoyed a little bit of the concert that was held inside due to weather, but she had about 35 to 40 vehicles of different vintage and color and age. And again, if you can have a moment to just watch MATV, Ron Cox was very gracious and came out last evening and assured us that he had gotten enough of filming done and interviews with the different car owners. But hopefully I think she would enjoy the fact that we are speaking to it tonight, and also we'll be hosting another event similar to that in August with a little bit of more hope on the weather. But it was well attended, and we want to thank the merchants and everybody else that was involved in it, but especially Councilor Murphy did a fabulous job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bucci. Seeing no other lights, I'd just like to wish everybody a safe and happy summer again. We'll probably be back here at some point during the summer. We have some issues that may be coming up in front of us that we'd have to take care of in a timely manner. So we, on Councilor Christensen's motion to recess, subject to the call of the chair, all those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting is recessed.